Radke. This is friendship, kinship, and the stories that made us this way. We are back in the studio today with Dr. Derek Shepard is actually my co-host back in the chair with me today. As y'all know, he was being groomed last week and he wasn't here, but he's looking so beautiful. So if you hear anybody playing with a squeaky toy or whining for attention, that's not him. That's actually today's guest. You guys, I am so excited for you to meet today's guest. Would you just welcome to the show right now, Mr. Dave Barnes?
What, this old thing?
Hi!
You stop it.
Okay, there's so many things I want to say. First of all, I want to say to our listeners and our watchers, our viewers, that I was listening. Do you know I was listening to Dave Barnes' music before there was a thing called social media? That's how long I have been a fan of yours.
I could feel that when I logged on. There was an energy that just shot through the computer. I was like, I know what this energy is, and that is someone who is familiar. And that's exactly what I feel. That's exactly what I feel.
And we know so many of the same people and we love the same people. And I've for years wanted to be your friend. And then what happens is you get to listen to his music and you just love the music. And then social media came along and I began to follow him on Instagram and got to know really more of the person and still wanted to have him on the show.
I was wondering where this was going. I was getting real nervous.
I tell you what, I'm really excited to have you here today, and I can't thank you enough because it had to be a little off-putting when you were invited to come on a show by a woman about women.
This is, this may surprise you, but that's actually 90% of my demographic. So this is a safe place. I feel seen. I feel loved.
You are seen, you are loved, you're adored here. Thank you so much for being willing to do this. I am a storyteller and I can't think of a better word for you as well, even through song. That's what you are, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. They're little 4-minute stories.
Or they are stories.
Sometimes 2.5 minutes. But it is. Yeah, I agree. It is little stories.
And I, how long have you been married now?
For 20 years in November.
Oh my goodness. See, I was those 4-minute stories that you're talking about. I mean, I would, so back in like the early, early 2000s or whatever, I would mow my yard in Nashville. I would be on the riding mower and I would have my ears. There was no thing as an AirPod. I would just have my little, my Sony Walkman or whatever it was. Yeah. And I would listen to the music and you would be singing about your wife and y'all had just gotten married and all this kind of stuff. And it was just, I've been listening to your stories for a really long time.
Do you know what I like about what you just did was the subtle flex of your yard was so big you needed a riding lawnmower. And I like how that was just subtle. You're like,
what it
you
was.
Can't hide money. You can't hide money.
You can't hide it.
I respect that about you. As you said, I'm going to come off the top rope. That's how I want to start this. Is just establish some dominance, some monetary dominance.
First of all,
I respect
I'm not rich like you. I didn't live in Nashville proper. I lived out Thompson Station way.
I'm not sure I could do it now. I got in when the getting was good. Because these days it feels like you have to have sold a body part or
that is the truth. Or either be on a bachelorette, outing.
Yes.
One of the two.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, listen, one of the things we do here is we talk about the women in our lives, the celebrated, the women that raised us, made us, humbled us, as they did to me, told us, hey, Kankle's running the family. What are you going to do about it? I want to hear you talk. You tell me stories about the stories that you sit around on the bus.
Yeah.
You still do that? Do people still take buses out?
They do. They are so expensive these days, but
are they really?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Since COVID, they've tripled in their price. It's unbelievable.
Really? Because I used to take David Radke up to the Kroger in Cool Springs drop him off and he would get on the bus.
That's exactly right. Kroger's are the great meeting places for buses, as you know so well.
So now that we've lived in Texas for so long, I didn't know if they still did that or not, but
they do.
But talk to me about the women in your life. Tell me a little bit about them. What makes them special?
Yeah.
What makes them unique? What makes you laugh?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot. Not in, not. Wait, can I
Talk
start
about a
over? Let's start
flex.
here. Edit producer here. I have a ton of women in my life. Just so many myriads of women.
Uh-huh.
No, it's funny to sit and actually think about this so pointedly because as I sit here, it really is. It reads a little. I feel like it reads a little bit like when those genealogies in the New Testament, where it's like, and then Jane, begat Dave.
Begat. Uh-huh.
So both of my grandmothers, I'm really blessed because my family, I've always been like our family corporately has always been a Christian family. So that's a
Mhm.
real gift. Both of my grandparents were believers. Their parents were believers, and so I'm really fortunate that that's the story of my family.
Mhm.
So my grandmother's, my mom's mom was this really, they both are feisty, which is funny,
Yeah.
both sets. But my Thompson grandmother lived in Jackson, Mississippi. She and her husband were just incredible people. She was kind of more introverted and quiet, but very feisty and funny.
Mhm.
So funny kind of comes from that. That's where the funny comes from,
Okay.
which is gonna be the name of my autobiography, which will be on shelves. No,
Really?
and no,
Oh, okay.
nobody wants to hear that. And then my Barnes grandmother, we called her Mama Barnes, was just this like, and my Thompson grandmother loved the Lord too, but was just a little more quiet. She was just a little more introverted. My Barnes grandmother was she was a weather. I mean, like, she was a storm. The woman was just this force of nature.
Uh-huh.
Um, Truth teller, just would absolutely just give you the sauce, but in the most like helpful way. Um, I mean, just the most one of the most godly people I've ever known.
Mhm.
So that's the grandmoms, which were just amazing people. And then my mom, thankfully, is both mom and dad are healthy, which is amazing, and still with us, which is such a gift. But she's a riot. My mom is a nut job. She
Really?
doesn't want you to know that, but she's an
Uh-huh.
absolute nutcase.
Okay.
And so much of my fun and silliness is absolutely from her. Loves the Lord, is still like discipling women and teaching Bible studies and
Yeah.
doing the thing. So she's incredible. And then my wife is. I think about this a lot, and I don't really know maybe how to say this without it sounded sort of like a really bad Prince lyric, but like women are really the most. I think about this a lot. I'm like, what is the most amazing thing God has made? And I really think it's women. Not just for the beauty, because that's incredible, right? But I just watch my wife. Like we've had sick kids all week, which is thank you for rescheduling because
Of
Monday
course.
I was like I literally sounded like a frog. I couldn't talk. And we're we've got another one right now that was sick last night, and I'm just always amazed at Annie's ability to she just and I think it's a mom, I think it's a woman. It's just the pain tolerance is through the roof. Like
Right.
I am if like right now I'm like I could lay down, I could nap. I'm just a little stuffed up, but I could take a nap.
Uh-huh.
Let's take the day off.
Yeah.
I'm just so where Annie is like, she could be she could have lost a limb, like her eyes closed shut. Like she just shows up. She
Yeah.
shows up.
She's
She
gonna
shows
power
up.
through.
She's gonna power through. And
Mhm.
I think about it really because of my wife. I think just watching her navigate the world um it's like one of the things I'm in the most awe of anything in the world. And that sounds really cheesy, but I really mean that.
Mhm.
There's an empirical side of that too. There's a really sweet, loving side of that. But there's also just like a watching it like from another vantage point, like I'm not even in part of the story, just watching it as a sort of a congregant almost. Because it's just phenomenal. Like and I think women, you guys have this ability to just my mom always says this, nobody will ever love you as much as your mom. And I think it's true. I just think there's something about like the inexhaustible love of a mom. And it's not to say that dads don't love, but I don't think they love that way. I
Yeah.
think moms it's you guys are great. Like women as a thing are just like it's the most amazing thing in the world. And so, Annie's the best. She's the most amazing person that I know. She's just absolutely incredible. Um,
Well, I hear you say all of these beautiful things, and I don't have one single doubt in my mind that she's that way. I just would like to state for the record,
mhm.
In all honesty, I don't think my family would describe me like you described Annie.
Well, it's not listen, she's not without her faults, but it is, I don't know, I don't know if it's one of those things when you think about, like, thinking about your spouse, whatever, but she's just such a great match for me because she has so many things I don't, and so I think
Uh-huh.
that's why it's so easy to see. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Oh my gosh, she's good at that. And so it's almost my inability to do those things that makes them so paramount, because they're just so front of like just right here, they're right in
Well,
front
like
of
you
you.
said, you have sick kids. How many kids do you have?
We have three.
And boy or girl?
Boy, girl, boy.
Boy, girl, boy. Okay. So we have a thing in my house, and I feel terrible saying this, but if they're gonna get sick in the middle of the night, they know not to wake me up.
Oh my gosh, for real.
They say, I will say, I walked down the hall the other night and I'm like, why didn't you get me up?
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't, we know not to do that. We know that you're like a rager. You're a night rager. And, and so we, is that like,
Which is
I
really
don't know.
close to Night Ranger, which is Sister Christian on the
Oh, stop,
tricycle.
oh. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not, maybe I'm missing some of those
Well, let
genes.
me tell you the thing that's interesting about Annie, and she would say this. I don't feel like I'm selling her out. Her gift is not necessarily sensitivity, right?
Okay.
So she's not someone that like, and she would tell you this, like she's not gonna be the most like comforting. She can be obviously,
Uh
but
huh.
that's not the way she faces the world.
Uh huh.
Uh, but when there is a need and there's a real like, this is very real. What's happening? It needs help. She is absolutely 100% dedicated to doing whatever it needs to see that need is met. Now, if
Right.
it's short of that, it's touch and go because it's like, are you manipulating me? What's happening here? But I think when it comes down to like, this is a real thing that is happening right now,
Yeah.
when the kid comes in the room, and I don't even know it's, they'd probably say this is not true, but I don't even know it's they're like, let's don't get dad as much as they're like, mom's just going to deliver. Like, she's going to like, she will
Yeah.
get up. She'll like, the other
She'll
night,
know where the medicine she'll know where the
yes.
NyQuil is.
Yes.
He
Yes.
will rummage around like a
Yeah.
raccoon in the dark.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
completely just like walking into a wall, just like, like a robot that doesn't,
Yeah.
um so, that might be something that's a little more particular or not, but I just know that I watch her and I'm just like, it's just when it comes to something that is like, this needs to happen, like,
Mhm.
this is not sort of a should be, like, she's like, I'll be there. I will clean up the throw up. I will hold you and potentially get sick myself because that is what I have to do.
I
Um,
literally said to them the other night, it was Remy, our daughter, who was sick, and David was taking care of her, and I said, "Hey, I caught your vomit in a Cracker Barrel. I literally caught it before it came out of your mouth." And she was like, "I was an infant. I am now 17 years old. Like,
yeah,
let that go."
yeah.
But they have a thing on Mother's Day that they like to do. We go out to this really nice restaurant. Don't be intimidated by me. It's called the Olive Garden. And we
Oh,
will go
Olive
out.
Jardine.
Yeah, that's what we got here. Okay.
Hey, it's okay.
And they love on Mother's Day to tell me all the ways that I failed them as a mom. And
Mm,
it's fun. That's
yeah.
fun. And I'm like, why is that? Why is that that's something that they get a kick out of? And then the other day, I was limping into a restaurant. I was walking into a restaurant. And my mom and my aunt were waiting on me, and I was limping. And I got to the table, and they go, "Why are you?" My mother said, "Why are you limping?" And I said, "I've got a bad foot." And she said, "My God, bless her heart. She's built just like her daddy's people." So
I just
I'm
love the
used
phrase "her daddy's people."
her
I just
daddy's
love
people.
that. I love
Like,
that.
I think I'm mothering the way I was mothered. And I will say, I'm thick as thieves with my mom. We are. And I wouldn't trade her for the world, but I just
Well, but
mother
you
in a
know what?
different
Not
way.
not to get really serious all of a sudden, but truthfully, what you just said, I think, is actually a pretty profound thing because I think, like, how old are your kids?
Well, my kids are 16 and 18 now.
Okay, so this is what's such a gift to me, and I know it is a joke, but I do think there's something really beautiful about what you said because I think if you can talk to your kids about what you've not done well now, oh my god, you are saving yourself and them so much pain in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, most kids sort of get out of the house, start dating or whatever, and then they realize like, "Oh my gosh, my parents are," if they didn't know already, Like, they're crazy, or
Yeah.
they've really let me down. Or, I tell people all the time, it's like when you bring that person into your house, usually it's the person you're going to marry. This is a weird analogy, but stay with me. I think of our life. It's almost like you bring them into your house, and there's a tapestry on the wall, right? This
Mhm.
huge tapestry, and it's the Barnes family tapestry, right? It's the Radke tapestry. And you're like every morning, you're like, oh, look, that's the thing. And you eat your cereal and you leave the house. Well, you bring this potential spouse in, this person you're going to fall in love with, and they go, huh. And you're kind of looking at it like, why'd you say that? And you're like, well, have you ever noticed there's a baby in the corner with an axe? And you're like, yeah, that's a little axe baby. And they're like, and also, why is that
Mhm.
dragon trying to burn the axe baby? And you're like, oh, that's the crazy burning dragon. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, see, now that's not normal. And you go, oh my God, that's not normal. It's like one of the first times you have another perspective. You have someone else's perspective that's close to you that you trust on your life. And so
Absolutely.
I think the gift is if you can sort of have kids that see the tapestry before someone else forces them to see the tapestry,
Yeah.
it's like the healthiest thing in the world, because then you can sit and admit, like, oh my gosh, this great there is a great thing. I painted the axe baby, and your dad painted the dragon. We thought it was a good
Mhm.
idea. But you can get it out there, and it's not this sort of
Yeah.
like, I've just seen so many struggles in people's lives when they have to sit with their parents and say hard things when they're 25. And
Right.
then, sometimes the parent accepts it. Sometimes the parents get mad because they're like, how dare you talk to me? But I think there's a real gift in you having the kind of relationship with your kids that they can go like, oh, mom, you, you totally dropped the ball on this. And you go, oh, well, it's because they're not they don't come in with this luggage in their mid-20s and sort of go, hey, we're all going to need to sit down. It's going to take a
And
minute. And you've never seen the luggage.
yeah, and I will honestly say, I think David and I had been married for a while before I ever looked at my parents and saw them as the mere mortals
Yeah,
that
that's
they
right.
are. And so
That's right.
therefore, when my family dealt with talking about being serious all of a sudden, when my family began to deal with heartache and
Mm,
even some, alcoholism in our
mm,
family that had never been there when I was growing
mhm.
up, I I realized, oh, that's just because their feet are made of clay. But they never told me this. And I
That's
always
right.
saw them as so perfect. So I guess maybe it does make me feel better when Rocco says, remember when mom knew I couldn't take pills, so she would just shove them down my mouth at night when I was asleep?
Hey,
I'm
there's
like, but
tough
you,
love, there's easy love, but it's love either way.
that's
It's love either
right.
way.
That's right. Tell me a funny story about you and your wife or
Oh,
you
man.
and your mother, a
Okay.
story that has become legend around there, around the Barnes tapestry.
So I used to tell a couple of these in my stand-up shows, when I would do stand-up comedy, but two that are two that are a couple a couple of my
Tell them.
two that are a couple of my favorites. It's really hard for me not to laugh. Tell these stories. So mom she's heard me tell these stories numerous times, so she's greenlit these. One is when I was going to get my eye, like, I couldn't see growing up. I had the worst eyesight. And mom and dad, they just wouldn't believe me. They just like flat out would not believe that I couldn't see. So finally I tell mom, like, Mom, I got to get my eyes checked. And this is probably like 7th, 8th grade. So I mean,
Oh
I'm
wow.
I'm becoming a young man. And she takes me to Jackson, Mississippi, and we go, we get checked in the optometrist's like, all right, come back. And so the first thing you do, you stand, and they have the big letters on the wall, and they
Sure.
get smaller tomorrow. The eye chart. So they give you the little thing, and so I'm standing there, and she's like, the guy's like, all right, if you go ahead and read the chart. And I was like, great. And he's like, put over your eye, and so I did this whole thing. And he's like, all right, read the top line. And I was like, yeah. Okay. That's and I hear E. And I was like,
What?
um, okay, is it E? He's like, that's right. And I was like,
Oh God, your mother's cheating.
and she's like, just read, they're right there. And I'm like, okay. And literally for probably a minute and a half, like, okay, next line. She's like, E7, 9. And I'm like, is E is an eagle. E. And finally the eye doctor's like, okay, Miss Barnes, so what we don't want to do is help our son cheat, because that actually doesn't help him. It doesn't. And she was just like, what
What is her
he
reason for
can see,
cheating?
he can see. I don't know why he's doing this. It was like, I don't know if she just thought like he's this perfect little boy. How can he?
Oh, no. Was it that, or was it this child has been, telling Wendy's, telling tall tales for his whole life, and I can't believe a word coming out of his mouth?
No, it wasn't that. She thought
It
she
was
thought I was
not.
just such a sweet little thing. And then the other one of my other favorite stories, and I'm not embellishing them because usually these are like 20-minute stories, but the other one, we had a place called Claude Julian's in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, a town of 8,000 people. It's the only place you could get like fine clothing, like bespoke clothing. So we got to go once a year because my dad was a pastor and we made like $9 a year. And so we went to get school clothes, and she would make me go in and try them on, and every time I came out, one, it was like randomly all the prettiest girls in my school would be at that store the same day. And
Of
so it was
course,
that
yeah.
thing where mom is picking clothes that are way too small because she just really hopefully thinks I'm smaller than I was at
Uh-huh.
the time. I was a husky kid. And so she'd give me stuff and I'd come out and the buttons just barely hanging on the shirt, and I'm like, Mom, I don't know. Like, she'd be like, put your arms out. I'm like, if I put my arms out, this thing, and it'd shoot off and people are ducking, you hear it pinging around the room, that kind of thing. Well, one day, we're doing this and she's like, all right, now put on these pants. I'll put them on. And I come out, and that thing that every boy has dealt with, where she was like, okay, now it's time to see how they feel in your crotch. And I'm like ninja swiping her hand, but it's too fast. And she just grabs and just pull. And all of my cheerleader friends are standing like, Miss Bart. And I'm just like, and she's just jerking. And then of course she goes, there's so much room. And I was like, wow, this is the worst. This is the worst.
I love it. I
So
love it.
we have a few of those.
Oh my gosh. I feel so normal right now.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
not
right.
about that part.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that part.
Yeah.
I have been married to David for this will be 31 years.
Wow.
This August. I know it. I look like a youth.
I was gonna say you looked so young.
31 years this August. He's sitting back there producing all of this. And I am about to tell you something, David Radke, that you have never even heard. But when he said that about his mother in a clothes shop and the cheerleaders from his school were there was this boy at my school and his name was Kane. And he was very popular.
He was probably a bad boy, wasn't he?
He was a bad boy. He had a bad attitude. I was in the Lufkin Mall. I was in the Lufkin Mall. And we had one of those places where you would go and get an ice cream on a stick and they would dip it in chocolate and then roll it in nuts.
Girl.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And I was eating one. I need y'all to both know I was built like the principal in the 4th grade. Okay? I'm not kidding. In 6th grade, I would sign hall passes because kids would think I was a teacher. Okay? I was quite a lofty woman. And I had that thing. Those are not easy to eat. You'll have to like go over and eat it.
Yeah.
We are walking through Bell's and I'm just to town on this thing.
Getting it, girl.
Kane Andrews walks right up, right in front of me. And I went, look at this. I went, oh, hi, Kane. And I don't know why, but my mother went, look at the mess she's making. And I told her if she finishes it, I'll get her a second one.
I mean,
that's not words that even need to be said.
What did you do in that moment?
Nothing. There was just nuts in my mouth. That's why I've been married 30 years. I'm sorry. You know what? And that I shouldn't have said. I shouldn't have said that.
We're just getting to that age with my kids where they're doing that thing. We're like, Dad, stop that stuff. Like we just entered that. Like
what age are they?
They're 13, 10, and 8.
Oh,
yeah.
Those are hard ones. It's about to get really real for you.
Yeah. Yep. I know.
We're choosing colleges right now.
Yes.
We're choosing colleges in Jesus' name. He's got to make a way where there is no way. I'm gonna tell you what, he needs to really do a miracle.
Yes. Amen.
I was the other day, I saw this girl on TikTok and she's like, if everybody that follows me will just give me $1, then I'll be able to buy, whatever it was, get myself some extensions for my high school reunion. That's a thing now on TikTok. People will do that.
Oh, I love that.
I ran into David and I go, David,
I have an idea.
I got 400,000 followers on TikTok. We can put this baby through
Girl,
school.
girl. I
How did we
mean,
how did we end up here? Okay, does Annie think that your mother do they get along well, or does she
they
think,
do,
"Woo,
they do. No, they get along. It's really
they
great.
do."
My mom is, I think, like, probably I don't know how many mother-in-laws like this, but I think mom probably errs on, like, just don't wanna get in the way,
Mhm.
which is probably the better way to err than the, like,
Yeah.
over involved. So thankfully, it's not, it's not something where we're like, "Oh gosh, here, like, shut the blinds." Act like we're not home. It's not that, thankfully. It's more like, come over." Like, and like, "Oh, sure, you sure?" So,
Yeah.
we don't have to navigate all of that weirdness.
Are you someone who grew up and still wants to have a close relationship with your family, wants to be involved with them?
Extremely so.
I think that
Extremely so.
would be the highest praise. That's one of the things that I pray all the time when my kids grow up and they have the choice to be with me or not. I want them to be with me. I want them to
Can I let
want
me I'm gonna dispense some wisdom. Are you ready? I'm about to
yeah,
preach. Here's the grace that God gave all of us, and I really think this is true. And I have a podcast called Dadville, and we talk about this stuff a lot with professionals. So this is not hear me
okay.
clearly. Like this is. But I think the thing that God really blessed parents with is the natural curve of a kid is always toward the parents,
It's
like
always what?
toward the parents.
Okay.
Always, it
Mhm,
never goes away. So I think most of the time, then it's on the parents to just make sure they don't break that.
mhm,
Right? So I think where we can get it really wrong as parents is feeling like we have to now we need to apologize. We need to, make amends. Like
mhm.
Lord knows more than probably anybody else in their lives other than their spouses someday. But I think we can really believe the wrong thing if we believe that like they aren't for us naturally
Yeah,
because they absolutely are at any age, at
right.
any age. And I think if there's a disassociation that happens, then I would say a lot of the times it's the parents needing to go, what has happened that broke what should naturally be there? Not how do I make them like me?
Right, that's very good,
And I
yeah.
think it's more about healing than it is like setting a trajectory. The trajectory's already there. They're always going to want to know you and have your approval. Always.
Yeah.
God made them that way. If anything happens, it's that the world send you the way you've treated them, something
Mhm,
that changes that or can affect it. And so I think the good news for that for me is then how do I just I've heard people say this and I think it's so beautiful, but like, is the spirit with your kids good? Is
mhm,
the spirit good? And as long as the spirit is good, they're always going to want. And now it's not like they're going to want to call you every day or be your best friend necessarily. That's not what I'm saying. But will they always want some sense of like my dad and mom love me and are proud of me? I think so. And I think
mhm.
then it's just our job to really care for that well,
Right.
and not. I think that's why I love the scripture so much. Not exasperate them. I think we
Mhm,
have to have and so I think for me, um, I see that more with my parents, probably more as I'm 46. I look at 25, I've been told, and that's great.
mhm.
You
Who
know,
told you that? Your mother?
yes, my mom in the mirror. So it's a meta thing I bought. It's great. It just whispers sweet nothings to you as you look into it every morning.
Yeah,
But no, but I think like I have found that as I've gotten older, I kind of want that as much as I ever have with my parents. I'm
yeah,
like I love hearing my dad come to shows or tell me, he was checking some, article on the internet about me or whatever. Like that actually means a lot to me because I
yeah,
like to know that because that is the bend. That is my bend is to know that my parents approve of me and think I'm great and think I'm doing it well and that,
yeah,
and so it's funny because, I didn't think it would be like that, but I think it's potentially as strong as it ever has been,
yeah,
which is crazy to me. You would think that like as you get more secure, as your life sort of builds up in a way that you kind of think like I'm good. And I don't know that I need the same things that I need as a kid. That's not what I'm saying. But I think absolutely I still want to know like, hey, did you hear the new song? Or they're coming to the show. Okay, good. Like, did you, that
mhm,
matters still. It really
yeah.
matters. And I think it should. I don't think that will ever go away. You know?
I hope it doesn't. I hope it
Yeah.
doesn't for y'all. I hope it doesn't for us. We went a vacation with my parents. I mean, we
Yeah.
when we plan our summer vacation, Remy and Rocco say, "Are Noni and Poppy coming?" I mean, that's
Yeah.
just how.
Yeah.
And I can't really imagine a world where family wasn't
Mm.
it isn't doesn't play a big part. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that.
Yeah.
So after we left Nashville, we moved back to Texas, where I was born and raised. So we're back in my hometown because as you know, everybody in Nashville is a transplant or used to
Yeah.
be a
Yeah. It's
transplant.
true. It's
And
true.
it was really important that our children be raised around family. And so here I am writing a book about family, but family really did, Miranda Lambert sings The House That Built Me. These are the women, these are the men,
Yeah.
this is the people that built me, that
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
me who
Yeah.
I am. Okay, I before we go, I want to ask you, what is the latest on what you're doing? Is it music? Is it symphony stuff? Is it stand up? What is the latest that you're doing?
No,
Because
so many things,
what
Melissa.
if
So many.
women are falling in love with you today? They need to know where to find you.
Stop. What? This whole thing? um, no, I've got a few things going. So, I'm putting out a song a month, which is really fun on Spotify and
Oh,
Apple
wow.
Music and everything. So basically, it's a really fun project. So I've done this for a while. It's in my first trip out to the. Well, I don't know where I was going with that. I was going to say
Yeah, I
something
got
weird, and then it was going to be even weirder. Um, but so writing songs and trying to find things to write about 25 years no career is yeah, it's a lot. But
uh
I love it. It's the job. I love it. But it's a lot.
yeah,
So I had this idea at the end of last year because I want to be releasing music on a tighter clip because that's kind of what we call them the DSPs, but the digital service providers like Apple Music and
mhm,
Spotify and everything is they like seeing because the algorithm then sees that and it helps you out. It kind of goes, hey, you're one of the guys that's like playing our little game.
okay,
So I wanted to release a song a month, and so I'm working on another album, but I was like, it's not going to be ready yet, and I don't know if that's the right fit for this kind of an idea. And so I was like, what if I go back through? I've been writing songs for other people for about 13 years now,
mhm,
along with my own music. And a lot of these songs just never got recorded because that's a big part of this weird. I mean, this from living in Nashville. That's one of the weird things about writing with other people is, you may write a song with an artist and they're like, that was great, but then they never record it. And it just kind of,
mhm.
it just sort of floats on down the river. And so I had about 10 or 11 of these that I've just always loved over the last 10, 11 years. It's like, gosh, like this song that came out this month is called Symphony. And I wrote it with Kelsey Ballerini for her years ago. And we both loved it, but she just never recorded it. And I've just loved it. It's like one of those songs that I have a little voice memo of her singing it. And every, a couple times a year, I'd find it, be like, and listen to it in the car. And she played it at a couple of rounds that we got to do together. And so I just loved the song, but I was like, it'll never see the light of day. And this is a project that's going to be called The Songs That Got Away. And every month I re-recorded a song I wrote for somebody else,
Yeah.
kind of in my style. And we're dropping them once a month. And so it's been really fun because I think it's given people a little different view of what I do. And there's some more country stuff. There's some like the song next month in March is like the soul R&B thing. And so it's really fun because I just think it's like a fun way for people to keep sort of hearing what I can do, but maybe not in the same way.
Heck yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
would you say that you have written any songs that I would be stunned to find out it was from you? That an
Well,
artist has done?
maybe. Do you listen to country music at all?
Well, I do, but I'm just mainly stuck on Morgan Wallen.
You are well, you and the rest of the world. If you look at
Yeah.
his numbers, that you wouldn't be the only one. No, I've had a couple of country songs that have done
No,
well.
I really do love country, so name
Yeah.
something.
So there's a song called "Craving You" that's Thomas Rhett and Maren Morris. Do you know
Oh,
that song?
yes, I knew
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I wrote that.
I love
Um,
Thomas Rhett. Oh, Maren Morris.
oh,
Okay.
he's the best.
Yeah.
You will not find many better men than Thomas Rhett. He is a wonderful guy. Uh, let me. A funny story about him. When I met him the first time, he was like 22. And
Oh,
literally, he
really?
was like, Dave, I just gotta tell you, I used to make out with my college girlfriend your songs all the time. And I was like, that's a strong first line. And I'm in.
That
You
is.
made
Wow.
you made me like you immediately. And then I just had a song that went number 2 last year, which sounds weird.
Uh-huh,
I
that
wish I
does
could
sound weird.
rephrase that. I wish I could rephrase that. By Dan and Shay called You. That was a big song for them. So it's fun, just writing songs. But that's again, that's why I like this new project. Is there's just so much music I make that people don't ever get to hear, or they don't know that I did it. And
Yeah.
so it's fun, putting those out for people to.
I'm excited. If I'm on Spotify, so I just know that at a certain day every month
Yeah,
I'll see a new one uploaded.
Fridays.
Okay. All right. All
They're
right.
up there.
Well, listen, that really awkward part. Oh, by the way, I don't know why I wanted to ask you this. I this
Oh my gosh.
did you see it?
Did I
Did you see
see
the
it?
50th?
Come on.
Okay, you saw the 50th reunion.
Oh my gosh.
What
I
did
have a
you think?
lot of thoughts about this. I don't
Okay,
know how much
I'd
time
like
you
to
want to spend on
explore
this,
them just
but
quickly. I want to know. I want to know.
I wanna know. Okay, here is I have I've actually thought a lot about this,
Okay.
oddly enough. Something you know about me, and this is it's one of the funniest inconsistencies of my My parents. My parents are love humor. They
Mhm.
love humor.
Yes.
So I grew up with a lot of Naked Gun, Three Amigos, like Airplane. Like my
Okay,
parents.
first of all, I want you to pause really
Okay.
quickly because when I got married, the day that I got married, my dad rented a TV slash VCR combo, and he put one in David's bachelor room and one in the bridesmaids room, and he let us choose what movies would be playing as we got ready.
Oh, I love
And
that.
David Radke chose Naked Gun, and Melissa
Oh,
Radke chose the Three Amigos.
I might listen to me. Three Amigos. That if I have top 5 movies of all time, those two are in it. By the way, those two are in it.
Oh my
But
gosh,
maybe
yes.
a line that I say more than any other line of it's from Naked, where he goes, Drebin found some photos, and he goes, "I was young and needed the money." He goes, "No, the crime scene, Frank." I mean, that I was young and needed the money. I probably use that line weekly. I mean,
Uh-huh.
weekly. It's embarrassing.
And
Anyway,
I want to say that my line from Three Amigos that I say repeatedly, I don't even know if you can say anymore, but it's, we're not Mexicans. We're from out of town. I don't
it
even know if we can
this
say it.
I mean, it is those what a golden age of comedy.
Okay, so keep going,
So
keep going.
so so, but one of the inconsistencies because, those were, Naked Gun now, I'm like, "Why in the world would they let me watch that?" Because but some of the jokes would just fly over you if you didn't get them.
Mhm,
But Saturday Night Live, they were always okay with me watching that, basically. It
uh-huh,
was like and so, for me, an instant like, a pillar of my childhood and, young adulthood was Saturday Night Live. Like, I mean, I bet you I probably know 70% of the skits that were ever on that show
uh-huh.
of all time
Yeah,
for that probably ending about 10 years ago. And even now I keep up with it. I still love it. So I think one watching it, I think I was I just I t- so me and a friend have downloaded a lot about this. That's why I've thought about this because I was like, why am I so like not emotional, but I just felt like all of this feelings. Like instead of just
really.
laughing, I just felt it. And I think I had a few thoughts I'll go through quickly. One, I think it's crazy to think that Lauren Michaels has gathered basically all of the funniest people in America
Yeah,
in that room. Like
right. It
just
was unreal.
his ability to curate those kind of people wanting to be there and like kind of fighting for places is really amazing. I think if you ask me, there's really only been like a couple of seasons, and I think they would say this, that were kind of flops. But to
Mhm,
think that for 50 years he's been funny, it really made me think so much more about him, like
mhm,
Lauren's ability to just always keep it on the rails. You know what I mean?
mhm.
And yeah, they've kind of had some, here's and there's, but mostly it's always been funny, some
Yeah.
version of funny, right? It I think the other thing I thought about, and these are the more heartfelt version of this, which is a little weird when you're talking about SNL, but
Well, hold
so
on, because do you think that Lauren Michaels himself is funny? A lot of times geniuses like that know funny, but it doesn't mean they are funny.
I don't know, I would imagine he is. He doesn't come off like he's funny, but
He doesn't.
that doesn't mean you don't know funny. You know what I mean? Like you know how to
Right.
gather, or you know it when you see it. Like
I don't know that Lauren Michaels feels like he needs to be when his
yeah,
whole entire world is curated around Amy Poehler's and Will
yeah.
Ferrell's, and I mean, he doesn't probably need to be funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you're gonna tell a story instead of Martin Short at dinner. Are you kidding me? Like,
Exactly.
just like
Yeah.
eat your steak and smile,
Right.
which is the name of my second book, oddly enough. No, and so I think I felt a lot of nostalgia that really surprised me. Like I felt this very like warm, sweet as I watched the show because I was like, and I'm not saying that it wasn't dirty. I'm not. This is hear me clearly, but I think I just felt like, man, this is just such a known thing to me. Like I
Mhm,
watch it and I'm like, this is unbelievably familiar
mhm,
to me. So I think that was one. I think the other thing I thought about, and I got this is probably where I got maybe the most like sort of verklempt, you're welcome, is that it was
mhm.
like, when will you ever see Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell do a skit together again? Or ever
Right.
before? When will you ever see Mike Myers and Maya Rudolph do a skit again? When will you ever see and I think, Tom Hanks and Eddie Murphy doing a skit.
I
I mean,
know it.
I was just like, this is a real gift. And I think like that's so hokey and way too like
Not if you
um
like entertainment like we do. Not if you
yeah,
like I lived for that reunion. We backed it up. We rewound it. We fast forwarded. We went back to this again. I mean, and this is a testament to how funny I think Saturday Night Live is. When it was all over and it was so great, I still said, "But where were the cheerleaders?
I
They
know.
didn't.
There were
You were
like 500 skits, and
there
I
were
was so
500
mad.
more
I
that
thought
they
about
could have
Wayne's
done."
World. I was
Oh,
like, "Why
Wayne's
didn't they
World.
do
But
Wayne?"
when Mike Myers walked out
Oh my
for S
gosh.
Coffee Talk, I
Oh,
thought I
remember that
wanted to
incident.
see him so bad. I
Well,
was so happy to see him.
you know, I think too, he was so in character and so funny.
Mhm.
Like, that's when you see a guy at that level come out and kinda steal the skit in a minute, you're like, "Well, that's why he's a GOAT. That's why, like,
Right.
he is."
Yeah.
But so I think for me, in conclusion to end my TED Talk on SNL, you know, like, I'm a huge Beatles fan, and they put out a song, last year that was like they found an old song that John had written that gotten recorded but never put out, and so then they put their stuff over it. They found George playing a guitar part that worked with it, and it kind of felt like me listening to that song, I got all emotional because I was like, "Gosh, you just don't this is like the last time we'll hear all their voices together in a new way on a new song," and I felt a little bit of that watching the show. I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, you know, a lot of these people are getting up there in age,
Mhm.
and who knows if they'll perform or what'll happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But I just felt like, man, this is a real, and this sounds so cheesy, but I think it's true. It's a real gift to people who like comedy for them to put on a show where they go, hey, we're going to put all of the best people in all of the skits. And I mean, there were a million people that weren't in there. I was so mad Bill Hader wasn't there. It was Dan Aykroyd wasn't there, or Dana Carvey. But like,
Okay, why that's why they couldn't do Wayne's World, because
yeah.
Dana Carvey wasn't there. Do we
Mhm.
know why?
No, I have an article saved that somebody wrote, like, here's why all the people that weren't there, and I
Yeah, I saw the
totally remember
article
looking at
title
it.
was "Why Bill Hader, Why Dana Carvey, and Why Somebody Else Wasn't There."
Yeah.
I'm hard pressed to think that there's like ill will with Dana Carvey. He's on there all the time as doing the cold
I
opens on
know.
any other
I don't
week.
know. I could see how people would. Yeah, I was thinking about this. I could see this is one of my favorite phrases now, but like I could see how people would get butthurt about this, but where it's
Yeah,
like, you know, they like I saw a lot of people that I was like, man, I'm surprised they were okay with just doing that one line and walking off the stage in that one skit because it, you
right.
know, they were some heavies that were coming through and like pop pop, and then they were off, and I was like,
Yeah,
I bet you they didn't like that email where it was like, hey, are you
yeah,
cool playing a rabbit in this skit and saying this line? When they're like, hold on now. Like, you
yeah.
know, I was on the show for 9 years. You're not going to give me one of my classic skits. So you know, I don't know if that's it. I just know that when I watched it, I was like, man, I couldn't have really asked for a lot more. I thought it really, and especially as you know, because they could have swung and missed on a lot of
A
things.
lot,
And I
right.
really felt like it was mostly funny. And some parts were like I was, you know, slapping my leg really, really
Were you
laughing.
slapping your leg on hot dogs and heroin? Because
That was the
I
one that got a little, I was like,
agreed.
I'll take the trip with you. I don't know where this is going.
Kristen Wiig as the Green M&M tried to save it for me a little bit there, but it just kind of went off the
When
rails
David
for me.
Spade, when they cut to David Spade, he's like, "I got to feel for it." I
I
was
already
like,
got a
that
feel
was
for
the
it.
best thing that happened maybe
And
all
here's
night.
what's so funny. Literally moments before I looked at David and I said, David Spade has not been on here yet, and my feelings are going to be hurt for him if he doesn't get to be on here. And the very next one he was, and then
Yep.
him sitting there going, I already got a feel
I
for it.
I mean, it was just
That was genius.
it was unbelievable. I mean, yeah, there were a couple. I mean, the Scared Straight, which was very lewd, but good gracious, it made me laugh. The Alien with Meryl Streep. That is one of my favorite things about Saturday Night Live. It really is. This is one of my favorite things about that show is when they get like a real actor on.
Uh huh.
And it happens about once a season, once every 2 seasons where they get like a grade A actor on, and they
Yeah.
go, I'm not going to read the cards. I'm actually going to play every character for every skit. And you get to see someone just kind of knock it out of the park and not a skit way. And kind of like, oh, you're like really this person for 3 minutes. And she did. Now she botched some lines because of that. But the performance to me was so good that I was like, I don't care if you mess the lines up. Just
But
to
in a
see someone sit and do it so convincingly.
But in a situation like that, Kate McKinnon has already teed that up for you so stinking well. When
Oh,
it goes back over to her and she's sitting there like this with that cigarette, and the
I
first
mean,
thing out of her mouth is,
forget
"Yeah, it
about it.
didn't really go like that for me."
I mean, you know what I didn't understand? I was so mad they didn't let Ryan Gosling do that skit because everybody wanted to see him laughing.
He's so great in that, and
You
he
know,
laughs every single time, and I
and the
love that.
guys were great. I mean, of course, those 2 guys are great, but I was just really I was sort of bummed at how I was like, "Man, that just feels like the volley of all volleys." Because especially the last 10 years, that's a skit that people are like, That's
Yeah.
a top 5 skit is when
Yeah.
those 2 get together. I think too last thought, I think the other thing I talked to my buddy about for a long time, and we were kinda laughing and geeking on is, like, you really do realize, and this is such an obvious thing to say, but it reminded me of this. When you think of SNL, there really are there's archetypes of cast members, and you
Mhm.
have to have them all. You have to have the like Will Forte weirdo who's
Mhm.
always as left or right as you can be, pushing the edges of the weirdest skits, playing really amazingly weird and wonderful characters.
Mhm.
You have to have like the Jason Sudeikis who's the straight guy all the time.
Mhm.
Every now and then he plays a character, but he's really the guy in the skit that's going to anchor it. Phil Hartman, these guys who
Mhm.
or girls who just like they here is the middle, and I
Mhm.
will stand here and let everybody run around me. And then I think too, you have like part players and they're great and they never kind of have them, but they're good. They do their job. And
Right.
then you have like the goats. You have like that's the thing I was telling my buddy because I was like, I want you to send me your top 10 of all time. And he's like, well, what would qualify? And I was like, well, the closest I could get to qualifying that is like when these people came on the show, they literally shifted the show. Like the show bent to their humor because it was so enormous. Like their humor and talent was so big that the show was kind of like we kind of can't not do what they're doing. Like I think about Kristen Wiig, Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy.
I was
These.
gonna say, when you told your friend, "Send me your top 10," are you talking about actors or are you talking
That's
about
right.
sketches?
No, I no like players.
Players.
Yeah.
Okay. And so in your top 5 would be
I mean, it'd be to me Kristen Wiig,
uh-huh.
Eddie Murphy for maybe is the top. Will Ferrell would be maybe the top too.
Uh-huh.
He'd be competing with that. I think, God, I have to think about the top 5. I mean, who would yours be?
Mine would be Kristen Wiig for sure. It would be Will Ferrell. I am
Mike
because,
Myers would probably be
because
in
of
mine.
what I was going to say, because of what he became after, as if Wayne's World wasn't enough. Mike Myers, the world discovered who he was, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
became just. I just think he's phenomenal. But I will say this: I want to say this about one cast member. I love this person, love their movies, but we saw a side of them the other night. If you don't love Adam Sandler after what he stinking
How
did with
great
that
was that?
guitar on that show,
How great
you
is
do
that?
not know talent because
Yeah.
that was how do you get people to laugh and cry
I
and feel it
know.
all and
It was
want
incredible.
more?
It was incredible.
It was
I
great.
mean, he wouldn't be in my 10, he'd be in my 20. I just think like yeah, it's funny to think about those people that sort of came through and left such a huge mark that when they left, it was like, man, it's gonna be hard for everybody not to feel let down because it was
Yeah.
like they were just such a substantial thing.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think I
was
think to round out the top 5, Steve Martin. I mean,
oh
come
my
on.
gosh, yeah. I
Come
mean,
on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and then you get again, you get into like the older, and I came up, again, like I sort of, and of course everybody thinks this, but my sweet spot was Chris Farley.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Van Down by the River. Yeah.
But that was when I was coming up was the Sandler, Farley, Spade, that era, and it
Uh-huh.
was just man alive.
Yeah.
Was it funny? I mean, Tracy Morgan might be in my top 10.
Oh,
When that guy was in a skit, it was like buckle up, just buckle up.
no, David and I have these shows, and they are our go-to shows at night when we crawl in bed and we're just winding down.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And there's shows like good old Frasier,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Things like that.
yeah.
We recently restarted 30 Rock.
Oh my gosh,
And I'm going to tell you what, that Tracy Morgan,
it's
he just
bulletproof.
walks onto the set and I die laughing.
It,
Um, anyway,
but I had a conversation with the guy once, and he knew Tracy. I was playing a show in New York, and me and a bunch of people went out to eat, and he was one of the guys. And he was a comedian. I don't know what's happened to him since, but he was kind of a big comedian at the time. We were hanging out, and Tracy came up, and he said, Dave, the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And he said, I've lived in New York, been a professional comedian my whole life. He said Tracy Morgan got up at this club once, and he said he shadow boxed for 25 minutes, and that was
no,
all he
he
got.
did not.
And I think about that every now and then, and I just think like that is just one of the most amazing things I've ever heard. Because you would imagine sitting watching someone do that for that long. You would just go through so many you know, like, and just the commitment to be like, all you're gonna watch me do, but him doing it, like his
Yeah.
body.
Uh-huh. And you have to think, surely we're gonna end here.
Yeah,
Now we're
and
gonna
he's like, no,
end, and
no.
it just keeps going.
That's like
Yeah.
it makes me think. Did you ever see the Jimmy Fallon skit where he did he did the Bob Seger and take those old records off the shelf? Did you see the skit?
No,
He did the whole song where he sang those 2 lines the whole song. But the new melodies, take 'em down off the shelf. Now put those old records on the shelf and take 'em back off the shelf. Not put those old records on the shelf.
Oh
I mean,
god.
it's that kind of commitment though. Like
Right.
I'm doing this no matter what you
I
think.
am all in.
But I
I
just
am
think
all
about
in.
Tracy Morgan shadow boxing for like even 15 minutes. I'm like, just what an incredible like I said that's all he did. He's like, that is all that he did. Then he got off the stage.
It has to be the same way people are feeling about listening to this podcast. It's supposed to be about
Mm,
chicken fried women, but has in fact turned a corner
it
and
has.
shadow boxed for the last
And,
25
and
minutes.
can I just say this? Maybe this is like a good way to land this plane. If you get a funny woman on Saturday Night Live, it's game over to me. I mean,
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, like I think there's something about really funny women that is
Mhm.
so it's almost got another depth because I think honestly women have different facets than a man does. And so it almost like I just think it can be it's funny in such a different way. And so when you see when Kristen Wiig did the I like and I touch when she does the
Uh-huh.
hands in Will Ferrell's mouth, I was
Yeah.
like,
And I'm Judy. And
I
then she
mean
has
that
a third hand that
it
comes.
just so I do think there is something about really funny women on that show that when they land, it's game over. It's
Yeah.
like they need to be in every skit.
Mhm.
And it's like you almost have to go back and look at Kristen Wiig's characters to realize how many stinking characters she did on that show.
Yeah.
Because I had forgotten about, oh, don't make me sing. Don't make me sing. I'd
Don't
forgotten
make
about
me.
her. Don't make me sing. But like and that wasn't even really like a hit skit. I mean, they reprised it a few times, but even that, like I watched one of those the other day and I was crying.
Uh-huh.
But I think at the time it's overshadowed because then she does, either the little hand skit or she does,
The
like
Californians.
yeah, or what's it? Uh, Gilly. She would do that,
Gilly.
So
Yeah.
it's like there's so many of them that her funny ones that weren't that funny almost get overshadowed. But then you go watch those on their own, you're like, this is just as funny as the other stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I have absolutely loved this. And sadly, I don't know if it's sadly, I could
Mhm.
talk about this for another 30,
Me
45
and you both.
minutes
Me and you both.
nonstop. And I'm not going to apologize for it. Listen, if you're
No.
listening to the Chicken Fried Women podcast, you knew what you was in for. You
Yeah.
knew.
This is your fault. This is not
Yeah.
our fault.
And you knew when I had Dave Barnes on, that was going to be a critical mistake.
I mean,
And we've proven that you're right.
we have only done what they knew we would do.
That's exactly.
Okay.
Hey, you know that awkward part of any podcast that you're on where they go to say goodbye, but then you're like, do I hang up?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to sit here? I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to say goodbye and you can actually go. You don't have to
Oh,
stay.
thank you.
I am on podcast and I'm like, wait, does she mean bye? But I need to stay.
Yeah. No, I know this life.
I got to tell y'all, there's some of y'all out there that are hosting some uncomfortable podcasts. So I'm just going to say, I have loved this. You are everything I told David Radke you would be. You feel like someone I went to college with, and I'm still very close to all those people. And because no one ever wanted to date me in high school, because again, built like the principal, and he was a great man. But I was always every guy's best buddy. And so I've always had a lot of male friends my whole life, and you just fit right in so beautifully. So
I feel the
I
same way.
I appreciate you being here so
Yeah.
much.
Well, thanks for having me on and thanks for doing I've almost called like my counselor and been like, can we talk about SNL? And he'd be like, Dave, this is a waste of time. I'm like, no, I need to exercise some thoughts.
Listen to me. You listen to me and you listen good, young man. If you need me, you know where to find me. I'll discuss this anytime with you.
It's just funny. It's like, who saw that being? It really messed with me. Like we watched it in 2 chunks. And I was just like laying in the bed thinking I was like, why is this so profound to me? This whole
Did you
thing.
go and watch the 4 episode series on Peacock of
No, that's
the
up next.
huh?
That's up next. I'm gonna do
Oh, I
that.
thought
That's up.
okay.
Yeah.
Listen, that even that first episode is all of their 5-minute auditions.
Jeez.
It's wonderful. And then the fourth one is completely dedicated to the sketch cowbell. It's just cowbell the entire time. And they break it down of how it happened in dress rehearsal versus how. Did you know that Will Ferrell walked in right before they did it live? They had already done it at dress rehearsal and it went fine. But he went in for the live and he said, "Hey, you know that brown sweater that I'm wearing? That's my dog. You know that brown sweater that I'm wearing? Can I get it in 2 sizes smaller?" And that's the reason why he had that small sweater on. Only Will Ferrell would even think
Okay,
of that.
last story. I know you like stories. I saw an interview with him. It's going around, so you may have seen it too, because everybody's been doing all these SNL interviews where he's talking to I think it's Fallon or maybe Jimmy. It doesn't matter. He's on some show and he's talking about how in college he would when he was in college with his friends, they were all in college together. This is not like
Yeah.
famous Will Ferrell. He said, I found I think he stole a janitor's outfit. And he's like, I would interrupt my
He
friends
would go into the room, just into their room, and be like,
and
"So this
say,
is
there's
not
no vomit. Nobody
this is
vomited.
this is not the class I'm supposed to be in right now."
Well, they
Can
told me
you
somebody
imagine
vomited. And the guy, whoever the host is like, so that was just to make 2 people laugh. He's like, absolutely. And I'm
Mhm.
like, that is, that's just glorious.
that? You know, I have started. This is how weird I am. I've started following his son on TikTok.
No,
Magnus, yes,
Magnus,
he's
sweet
funny.
Magnus.
And I don't know. I got to get a life, man.
All
I
right,
got to get
last
a
thing,
life.
and then we can end this. Can you
Okay.
imagine what it would be like being the son or daughter of someone that's that funny?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because Will Ferrell to me is different. I have a whole treatise on this. I won't bore you, but Will Ferrell's like funny. Like he's fun. He's not like get on stage and be funny or like Lauren Michaels funny. Like I just imagine anywhere you see him and you talk to him, you're probably going to giggle a little
Did
bit
you
because he's
see
just
him
funny.
as Buddy the Elf at the
Yes,
hockey game?
yes, yes.
So you know, if your dad is willing to just do that on a Tuesday
Like
night,
what is that? I think about that and I'm like, what would it be like having a parent that's that funny? Like, are
right?
you just like, I don't need to be funny at all because that space is taken? Or are you like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Magnus put up a one the other day that just simply said, "My emergency contact." And then and they were in a hotel room and it's Will Ferrell just doing this dance in a hotel room and you just want to bust out laughing. But what's funnier is that actually is his emergency contact.
That is real. That's what I mean. That is real life for that guy.
Yeah.
Like I think
Uh-huh.
about Robin Williams' kids. I'm like, can you imagine what that would be like? Just
Oh
someone
my
that at
gosh.
any moment could be that funny,
Yeah.
you know?
I have a feeling that's probably what our kids say about you and
I
I.
was gonna
Yeah.
loop it back to, so when I sit with my daughter and she's laughing at me, I think,
I
what a
don't like
gift you've been given.
I
You're a
don't like to
parent that's
turn
just
things
funny.
back to myself, Dave, but yet here we are.
Let me do it for you. You know.
This has
Um,
been great.
yeah.
I think I love you, and I
Well,
can say that
stop.
because David's right
He
there.
is.
He ain't worried.
Yeah. Okay, good.
He ain't
Okay.
worried. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here
Thanks
today.
for having me. So fun to chat.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Y'all. I apologize for nothing. This is now a podcast episode that is